I thought we should talk about the Switch for a second. And suddenly like, Nintendo, Mario! Ah!
Hello and welcome to This Is Nintendo. So we've had a few videos now titled Don't Buy Blank. And today I'm gonna tell you, don't buy a Switch. Let's talk about Switch 2, because there's some rumors that are starting to stir, and it feels like maybe these are the most credible they've ever been.
No, it's reaching fever pitch. A new Switch is coming for shoresies. Next year, we will be using Switch 2s, and we will live our best Switch U life.
I want to talk about like what this could look like. So the bigger screen is supposedly like an 8-inch screen, a bigger battery. Okay, fine, whatever. It's rumored to have an LCD screen again. So we're stepping back away from OLED.
How much do you care though? Like honestly, how much do you care?
Me personally, I don't care because I think that Nintendo makes these really dumb decisions. A lot of people don't care, which is why they keep selling tons of these things. But like, I feel like I'm Jesse Pinkman. You can't keep getting away with it. Dude, let's talk about Red Dead for a second.
Oh, are we actually gonna talk about Red Dead?
The fact that they are, like, I love Red Dead, but the fact that they're putting it back on, they're just reselling it, just a straight one-to-one.
It's got extra language support.
Okay, great.
Don't you want to be?
And they're selling it for full price.
It's $50, not $60.
Okay, gamers don't compromise. And all Nintendo does is compromise.
Can we just pause for a second, Matt? What do you have against Nintendo? I feel like you've got a real vendetta here.
I do.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Because what have they done for their fan base other than they just repackage
Mario?
and resell you the same thing?
Pokemon?
No. Don't you dare throw me
Zelda?
Mario. What's the last time they introduced a new IP?
Splatoon.
And what was that?
2017.
What about before that?
Wii Sports.
That doesn't count.
It's a multiple generational game.
No, it's not. They
Nintendo Land. That worked well, didn't it?
Nope, exactly. But instead, what they'll give you is we get maybe one franchise from them every 5 years. Great.
But that's okay. But here's the argument against that. People love these games and they print money. So what's the problem? What's the alternative here? I don't understand. Like, what do you want them to make Halo on the Switch or something?
Seriously, how many Mario games do you think there are?
49.
You're not even in the... You're like, not only are you not in the ballpark, you're not in the sport. There are almost 300 Mario games. Mario Party, Tennis, Dr. Mario, Paper Mario, like all these things. The last Direct we had, they had 9 Mario titles in one Direct.
Why do you hate Mario so much, man? Why are you so angry? Can we just play games and have a good time together?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, then why are we yelling?
You asked me what I got about it.
Are you going to say that you're not going to buy a Switch 2 because they made too many Mario games? What is this argument?
What I'm saying is Nintendo has done zero to entice me to buy a new console.
What would it take for you to buy a Switch 2?
Graphics that don't look like they're from that look worse on a 3DS. The fact that Pokemon looks the same way, like the way it does now in 2023 is ridiculous. It's the largest franchise in the world. Hire a couple more devs to make it so you don't have 2D graphics in a game in 2023. So many games today run at sub 30 FPS on the Switch.
Commenter.
But no. If everyone's bitching about like, man, Starfield can't run at 60 FPS. This is a trash game. And then they're like, Switch is the best console ever. And I love playing Witcher at 12 FPS. Like, what is the double standard here?
You know what? This is no longer a Switch 2 video. This is a Matt counseling session because Mario has hurt him. You're upset that the Switch doesn't have anything that's not Mario or a game that runs at 17 frames per second. Is that a fair way to sum up your argument?
There's so many better options out there. To me, if you are diehard, you have to have Mario. You're stuck with Nintendo. Xbox and PS5, there's alternative options. You can play on PC. You want handheld, you can go get a Steam Deck. You can go get an Ally. They all run better than any of the Switches.
But I mean, to be fair to the Switch, it is what, 6 years old at this point?
Okay.
Like, it's older hardware. It's about to be replaced. Right? The new version will be more powerful.
No, let's talk about that then.
Sure.
All right, because we just did our video talking about PlayStation. Is there gonna be a slim version? Is there gonna be a pro version? And everyone's up in arms. Nintendo does nothing to push the envelope. They spend all this time making like, oh, this is gonna be the new custom gimmick that we have for this generation.
Amiibo?
And then they completely abandon it every generation. What do you think the Switch 2 is gonna look like?
They're gonna start out with the best design of a Switch, which is of course the Switch Lite.
That's already wrong if the main rumor is that it's gonna be 8 inches. Wrong.
It might start out at 8 inches, but it'll eventually hit 5.5.
Well,
okay?
not if it's cold out.
The better performance is, I think, a given. So I actually did a Twitter poll the other day, and I asked people, like, what's the number one thing that you care about? By far and away, it was graphics/performance, which makes sense. But I think we can all just safely assume that the Switch 2 is going to be largely similar on the actual form factor. But imagine a Switch 2, which is largely just what we kind of expected out of a Switch Pro. Larger display, likely different Joy-Cons, and more performance that I very much hope they have backwards compatibility, because there's been a surprising amount of rumors of people sort of doubting that that would be a thing. I think Nintendo are crazy if they don't include backwards compatibility. If they don't do that and then make me rebuy all my damn Switch games again, I agree with you on that.
That is the biggest Danny DeVito-sized fly in the ointment, because Nintendo has an absolutely horrible track record of backwards compatibility.
Wait, no. I mean, unless they are greedy. Why would they not allow you to play a
How
Switch
do
game?
you not take a company who's tried to sell you the same Mario game for 40 years? That game has gone to college. It can rent a car.
Yep.
It's been married, divorced. Its kids don't want to call him anymore.
So I understand you have a lot of grievances against Nintendo.
No, I love Nintendo. Every rumor is that they are going to make it slightly better.
Help the audience out. Look, we're all in the same boat, interrogating Matt on his sauce point of view. What is your actual stance? So I can tell you that you're wrong.
I want you come with me. Come a little closer. A little closer. I'm gonna take you on a journey. Do you remember when the iPhone XR came out and it had a sub 1080 screen, and everyone's like, "How could Apple do this?" But then you look at a Switch and the resolution is like 240p.
Let me defend the Switch for 1 second. Okay, again, this hardware came out back in 2017, the Switch. At that point, there was nothing handheld that could do anything like this with the level of AAA support that it had. And while, yes, looking through the lens of 2023, where we have the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and stuff, the Switch doesn't hold up that well. And I don't want to play most games on the Switch when I could play it on something which is significantly more powerful. But when the Switch first came out, there were a ton of games that you just simply couldn't play handheld otherwise. It was really cool. There was a moment where this was good. It just has fallen behind. They haven't updated it. They probably should have done a Switch Pro.
Can you even see like anything out of those rose-colored glasses?
No. Okay, look, I don't want to be like a Defendo,
Yeah.
a Nintendo Defender. Hear me out for a second, okay? The Switch walked so that the Steam Deck and ROG Ally could run. For Switch 2, they don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, we all like handheld devices. All they need to do, in my opinion, for the Switch 2 is give me another version of the Switch, update the performance so that it is like Steam Deck equivalent.
We talk about like how like PlayStation, PC, Xbox, they've kind of hit a wall of like, it's hard to get any better on some of those. The diminishing returns of like graphic quality to get to that point.
There's still PS4 games, I think, that look terrific 10 years later.
As time goes on, the graphic quality gets better and better and better, but like it gets less and less after each generation. I don't see that with happening with Nintendo. I'm reminded of this every day. We walk into our lobby. I see Pokemon Stadium running that has better battle animations than any Pokemon game on the market today. I'm not against the idea of the Switch and whatnot. I'm against the mentality that Nintendo has of, no, we're gonna get your money regardless. So all we have to do is coast. We have to give you the absolute bare minimum, which is what they've done. How many of you are like have gone through 2, 3, 4 plus Joy-Cons? Because every one of them has drifted, and that problem has never been fixed. My issue that I have with Nintendo is they have done zero to earn my business. And like, I know that so many people just have this rose-colored glasses for them. I remember like Sword and Shield for me was when I said I'm done with Pokemon, because I think most of the Game Boy games arguably look better than Pokemon. It's not like, oh man, we're an indie studio, you know, we're barely scraping by.
They're gonna sell tens of millions of units and make piles of cash. I agree.
Like, Zelda ran out of digital codes because so many people bought them. It was a short amount of time, but like it happened because so many people wanted to get it.
Let me give you my thoughts for a second, okay? So you have a persuasive argument. If the Switch can get back in the conversation with the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, isn't that gonna solve a lot of the problems? If this thing is powerful enough that you can actually play all of these AAA games and stuff that people are gonna port to the Switch too. Cyberpunk was never gonna run on the Switch, but even something like Cyberpunk, which can sort of run okay on like the ROG Ally and on the Steam Deck, if they could get something like that on the Switch 2, if it has that kind of performance, my argument is just that the Switch 2 doesn't need to dominate. Like, it's already gonna have all the Nintendo stuff. It's gonna have the Marios and the Pokemons and the Zeldas. It just needs the performance and the ability for me to play games that I would otherwise be playing on like Steam Deck or whatever. And if it can do that,
I just don't think that's gonna happen.
But why not?
Because it hasn't happened yet now in Nintendo's history. Why would it happen now? It feels like people just buy the new generation to play the new generation of the old same 5 games. The other big thing is like all the super specific gimmicks of a Nintendo product, which I feel like is going to deter a lot of devs.
I just think as a gamer, if you are in the market for a handheld device, don't buy a Switch right now. And while I think the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally are terrific options, if the Switch 2 can be in that kind of ballpark, that's, you know, $300, maybe $400 on the high end, and it will be able to play not only a good level of the AAA games that everyone's playing, but also all the Nintendo games that you probably want to play realistically, that, in my opinion, is all it needs. I don't care about a lot of the other little bits and bobs.
We talked about like the games and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I think they need to completely revamp from the ground up. Online.
Agreed.
Like,
throw it out.
How is their online service again? This the equivalent of like an AOL chat room from 1940, and it's like, oh, it's only $20, and you get access to all these.
$20 that sucks. I will give you that I'm being maybe a little bit more optimistic than I should be, but I'm just saying what I think that Nintendo could do to earn mine and a lot of other people's purchase of a Switch 2. I think it's a fair enough thing that they could do. And with the massively successful track record of the Switch 1, I think most developers, if there's a Switch 2 that can run their game, they're probably going to invest the time in doing it. You know, they're going to sell 100 million of these things. Like, they just are going to.
If they're going to sell 100 million of these, they're not going to change anything.
Oh, God. He's leaving. Oh, is that an NES? What are you doing with the NES? Are you pointing out the last time you enjoyed playing a Nintendo game?
Pretty much. The only reason this stopped existing was because Sega. That's it. If Nintendo had their way, we would still be playing this console right here in the year 2023. Is that not exactly what they did with the Wii U?
But the Switch is good though, man.
The Switch
is good.
Like the Wii was massively successful.
Yeah.
So all they gave us with the Wii U was a gimmick pad that barely any of their own games took advantage of. What was actually different about a DS versus a 2DS?
Are you saying like DS to 3DS?
Yeah, did that have to be a generational upgrade?
Of course. It was a significantly more powerful console, just the same as the Game Boy Advance to the DS or anything before that.
Pretend like the 3D part of that didn't exist.
Yeah, it's just a more powerful DS, which is what the DS is a more powerful dual screen version of the Game Boy Advance, which is a more powerful version of the Game Boy Color.
It didn't look like a crazy different from the DS version.
I mean, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color look basically the same too.
Yeah.
Like it's just
you're proving my point.
But by that same token, the PS3 is just a slightly better version of the PS2, which is a better version of PS1. Like that's what consoles are.
Noticeably better graphics.
I'm not following your logic here. Nintendo just make their consoles better every few years, like everyone else does.
At the bare minimum.
What? They make the consoles better every few years because that's what everyone does.
But just saying it's better doesn't mean it's good.
They're selling hundreds of millions of them. What are you talking about, Matt? I feel I'm taking crazy pills here. I'm arguing with the comment section.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
You are.
Let me know.
Matt's not even gonna do an outro right now. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and please let us know what you think about these crazy shenanigans and whatever happy things that Matt is on in the comments below. I'm not gonna ask any more questions, Matt. I'm afraid that you're gonna rant more.